Okay, there's currently a torrential downpour that's just coming in right now. Wow, it's intense. Oh God, wow. Um, there's actually small hail coming down. Oh wow, we're actually getting some small hail, or no hail, but big raindrops. We're getting huge raindrops. I mean, there's definitely hail coming out of the base of this cloud. These raindrops are just gigantic. Oh my God, these are gigantic raindrops. The raindrops are so big that there's actually pieces of stuff coming off the trees. But there's no hail. Like, there's no hail coming down. Look at the raindrops. They're gigantic. Wow, they were just gigantic like a minute ago. Oh wow, they were huge. I'm in my neighborhood. Okay, this storm is not even severe warning. There's no lightning. It's just big raindrops. Oh, they're coming down again. Incredible, just incredible. Wow. This is a tropical downpour. I mean, this is a true tropical downpour. I mean, look at this. There's leaves falling off the trees. There's like even pieces of like acorns coming off because these raindrops are just so big. I mean, no, this is just leaves coming down, but look, there's no wind with this. And look, I mean, look at Queens Boulevard. It is absolutely just like raining like crazy. Hold on, I gotta protect my phone because it is really coming down hard. Like, I didn't think it was gonna get this hard. I knew it was gonna get stronger as it was coming off of New York Bay and through Brooklyn, or Kings County, as it used to be known, or is it still officially known. Anyway, we are getting some really intense rain right now, but the worst of it is yet to come. There is a line of severe showers and thunderstorms that's coming in. Look how heavy it rained. Look at the ground. Look at all the leaves that were brought down by the big raindrops. This is a true tropical downpour that just came in. I mean, I've seen bigger raindrops than this. The only difference is it's been kind of dry. We've been kind of in a bit of a drought, and it's been a little colder than normal because of a blocking pattern that developed off of Greenland or off of Labrador due to abnormally warm water temperatures, which is why we had the rare November snow, the rare snow a couple weeks back. It is because of abnormally warm water temperatures off of Labrador. And if you look up, you see these base of these clouds? There's a whole cloud right there that just gave us a downpour. That is the entire cloud. At the base of the cloud, there was hail coming down. There was small hail coming down at the base of these clouds. No rotation to speak of. This is just a simple cell right now, but this is the type of cells that usually bring that tornadoes, because these are basically cells that are forming ahead of the main line of storms. These are what you would call discrete cells. These are discrete cells. However, my stream is not going to last much longer. I have only 10% left on my battery. And so I'm going to be going back in to prepare for the second line of storms. And I'm going to take the afternoon nap, and then I'm going to go back to I'm finally going to go to my mom's house and have dinner there for the first time in several months. So, can't wait to see my family again. Wow. There's no rotation. You know, it looks a little menacing there, but no rotation. It's all just moving in the same direction. It's getting a little windy right now. There's a bit of an outflow boundary that's forming. It's still raining where I am a little bit. So this cell is trying to backbuild itself. It's trying to train a little bit. The model said it was going to be further west. The models did handle it very well. The strongest cell had some lightning within New Jersey, was not severe warned. But this cell is back building just a little bit. However, it's having a hard time becoming strong because there's still cool waters. We're having winds off the water right now. Temperature here was around in the low 80s. Now we're down to about 74, 75. The strongest the winds got were about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Nothing intense, except the raindrops were so big that they made leaves and like little pieces fall. I mean, you could see there's stuff on the ground. It wasn't there before it started raining, that's for sure. So this is all because of the big raindrops. The raindrops were so massive, they were so big that they actually are bringing some of the dried up, shriveled leaves down. Winds are now say getting close to 15 miles an hour again. They may have been briefly up to 20, but those are probably gusts. The current time is around 3 p.m. It's currently 3:13 p.m. Friday, May 28th. Sorry, May 29th. 29th of May, 2020. Thankfully, the coronavirus cases are finally going down. But I'm really concerned that there could be a really bad second wave. However, I believe that with the correct proper treatment and social distancing, glove and wearing masks, people can avoid the worst of the coronavirus. We can basically halt the spread. We can flatten the curve and bring it down to around zero, hopefully by this time next year, if people are very diligent in practicing social distancing. Practicing social distancing doesn't mean you can't work. In fact, if your job, say, requires you to be at a factory, you can still be at the factory, but like wear a mask. And I think it's a little soon to open up, especially in the cities, but in the surrounding areas, yeah, it's okay to open up early because it's less crowded away from the city. So it's saying it's 79 right now, but that's the temperature in Manhattan. So I'm going back inside now. I don't have the mental energy today to do a live stream on the computer. I'm really sorry about that. I've been dealing with a lot lately, and I need to kind of mentally recuperate myself. Basically, my AC unit is not working as well as it used to. And so I'm having a lot of sleepless nights because I'm very heat sensitive due to, I just get very hot easily and I sweat a lot. And I'm very sensitive to the heat. So, and because where I live, there's like poor ventilation. Even on windy days, I don't feel any wind in my room unless it's coming directly out of the south or southeast. So yeah, I live in an apartment I live in an apartment. So guys, thank you all for watching, and hopefully I'll make another video when there's another storm coming in. And I am still trying to work on my official hurricane season forecast. I am going to try to make my own map too. But I don't know the cost of that, there's also a lot of factors into the hurricane season forecast, including the Saharan air layer, the Madden-Julian oscillation, sea surface temperatures, and how much dry air there's going to be coming off the continental United States. And because of the volcanic eruption, there still might be some effects from the Raycock volcano, the Raycock volcano. don't know, I think it's Raikok. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. I think it's Raikok. I think it's, I don't know how to say it in Japanese. Because in Russian it's Raikok, and but that's not the correct pronunciation. The correct, I believe, is Raikok. Anyway, the volcano had a high-end VEI4 eruption, possibly low-end VEI5, because it caused spectacular atmospheric displays, not just in the North Pole, but even down to the subtropics. This was likely VEI5, but it didn't cool down the planet much. In fact, even with low solar activity, a La Nina and a volcanic eruption, April 2019 is still running 0.44 degrees above normal. So to say that low solar activity will bring about another ice age is completely ludicrous. I mean, it may do it more slowly. It's not going to be sudden. It's not going to be, oh, in 10 years or 20 years. It's probably going to be in 100 years or even 200. Also, you got to look at the Milankovitch cycles. Right now, the Earth is in a more circular orbit. And we won't come out of this circular orbit for another 10,000 years, which means we'll continue to have an interglacial for another 10,000 years. In addition, we are putting so much CO2 into the atmosphere that even with the Milankovitch cycles, there will likely not be so much cooling. I mean, the Milankovitch cycles only started contributing to ice ages once the Panama Isthmus closed, and it changed the global thermohaline circulation. That's, ice ages started being cyclical around like 1 or 2 million years ago. So we may have a temporary pause to these ice ages because of this interglacial, but we could also have, well, a temporary pause. The warming may be so significant that it will cause a lot of desertification, ocean acidification, not really from the warming per se, but from so much CO2. Because once CO2 combines with seawater, it turns into carbonic acid, which breaks down shellfish and coral reef. And even if global temperatures will not cause the sea level to rise by too much, the abundance of CO2 in the atmosphere could cause a really bad disruption to the food chain, similar to what the volcanoes in Russia and Siberia, when it was still in the tropics, did, and caused such a massive rise in CO2 that it caused the Earth to almost become a desert, and the polar regions to become tropics, and almost wiped out all marine life on Earth because of ocean acidification and the warming of the planet. And the amount of CO2 that was emitted yearly from this event was comparable about 1 to 2 times yearly human emissions. So we are definitely on track on doing that if we continue where we're doing. This is why it's paramount that we must stop emitting CO2 immediately. I don't mean in 10 years. We must build molten salt reactors, liquid fluoride thorium reactors. We must desalinate seawater and do a lot to contribute to more ecological ways of farming, such as hydroponics, drip irrigation, indoor farming. The idea of having water spraying everywhere, being very wasteful, is not a good idea. That's not how practice good farming. That's why the Ogallala Aquifer in the Great Plains is starting to run out. And all these record rainfall will increase the level. This is basically a chance for the farmers in the Midwest, especially the big agricultural companies, to change the way they farm. They don't even have to use any GMOs. They just need to farm smarter. Drip irrigation. Maybe cover the crops up so the mosquitoes and other insects won't get in. Or even better, hydroponics. You would think it's using a lot of water, but the thing is, you're not wasting it, so you're keeping it in one place, and there's natural nutrients in the water. But you just add some nutrients, and then that's it. So the thing is, it's very possible to be green, have an almost net neutral carbon footprint, even a negative one at that. But the thing is, we are so stuck in our ways of having cars, of living in big houses, driving, that we can't change. I mean, we could still continue that lifestyle, but without polluting the earth. For example, you could use carbon. You could ever heard of graphene? Graphite, simple graphite. A simple piece of graphite has enough graphene in it, enough carbon to make dozens of small batteries, of supercapacitors. I mean, I think using lead in pencils, graphite in pencils is horribly wasteful. I think what's better than pencils is erasable ink, or ink that is made from plants instead of chemicals. So right now there's more cells coming in. No, we're not doing geoengineering right now. The thing is, we should be doing to reverse our effects. That's all we should be doing. We should not always be geoengineering. We should only do geoengineering to reduce our impact, not to change Mother Nature to our whim. We should not be doing that. And we should not be doing GMO crops. I'm completely against that, especially the pesticide crops. Those are horribly dangerous for the environment. We should just be simply planting more trees, being greener, like using graphite to make batteries. That's not geoengineering. That is adapting and trying to reduce our impact. Climate change, we are geoengineering unintentionally by driving all these gas guzzlers around, by having all these factories around. All the volcanoes on Earth only account for 1/10 of all human emissions. You'd think volcanoes? Yes, volcanoes used to contribute to almost all the CO2 on Earth. That is until we came along. That and forest fires. Of course, it's not everyone's fault. You have volcanoes, but the thing is, volcanoes also emit sulfur, which cools down the planet. For example, the Ray Kroc volcano emitted a lot of sulfur, but not much CO2. CO2, most volcanoes, all the volcanoes around the world, emit, on average, 10,000 tons per day. Like between 10,000 and 100,000 tons a day. 100,000 tons is like the most, like if you have a major eruption. Like all volcanoes, and anywhere from 10 to 100,000 tons per day. We emit about 1 million tons per day. So that's about anywhere from 10 to 100 times as much we emit than volcanoes. So that is geoengineering. That is causing a climate catastrophe. We went from 280 parts per million in 1880 to 416, or make that 17 this year. Do the math. Subtract 280 from 417 and figure out the percentage of how much CO2 has increased in just that amount of time. Because global warming causes some areas to get cooler. For example, because the Labrador Strait, was warmer than normal, you had a really strong block there, and it destabilized a piece of the polar vortex, which caused it to come down in the middle of Maine to New York, and into like southeast Canada. And people were saying, oh, this is geoengineering. No, that was more natural, but we are unintentionally changing the climate and also making it worse. It's gonna get better for some people. I'm gonna be honest. It's gonna get better for some people, but for the most part, it's gonna be horrible for everyone else. But having a stable climate, for example, turning the Sahara into a fertile grassland, because just a few thousand years ago, the Sahara was a fertile grassland. How did the Sahara become a desert? Well, that has to do with the rotation of the Earth and its axial tilt. The axis, we're usually at 23.5 degrees. However, about 10,000 years ago, the axial tilt was slightly different. And so basically, the strongest sunlight areas of the most lift and convection was right over the Sahara, which is why the Sahara Desert wasn't always a desert. That is natural climate change. That is nothing to do with us. However, the Sahara Desert is usually a fertile grassland for most of its history, with it being a desert for short amount of time. Because of that, the Sahara Desert has so much water underneath that it's insurmountable. Like, it's just that alone accounts maybe 30% of the world's untapped freshwater. And with drip irrigation, hydroponic usage, desalination of seawater, we will literally never run out of water. We have no need to fight over water, really. Whoa! Well, the term climate change is supposed to refer to natural climate change. The correct term is man-made climate change. Global warming, there's different kinds of global warming. There's natural global warming, like what happened in Siberia about 50, 100 million years ago, which caused a horrible ecological disaster, or an asteroid impact, which also released the 65 million year ago asteroid, which released huge amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. This is the first unnatural climate change, because it is organisms that are doing it. We are doing it. Not natural. It's not because of weathering. It's not because of volcanic eruptions. That's natural. We are doing this right now. Yeah, in the 70s, they thought it was global cooling just because the northern hemisphere started cooling a little. Oh, they said, oh, glaciers are advancing. You know what caused that? That had to do with a cool phase of the Atlantic Ocean. We had a cool phase. You had blizzards coming up the coast. You had, very negative troughs. Yes, in fact, the Pacific Ocean was actually in its warm phase when this was happening, while the Atlantic was in its cool phase. So with the Atlantic being in its cool phase, you had some warm water in Labrador, cold water everywhere else. You had cold water. You had warm Pacific, especially Northeast Pacific was warm around that time, but still cool by today's standards. It caused the jet stream to be very unstable. So you didn't just have very cold winters, you also had very hot summers. Remember the blackout of 1977? It was really hot. Lightning strike caused a big power outage in New York City, caused a bunch of riots, because not only was it summer, it was one of the worst heat waves in the city's history. And the thing was, even though when they were talking about global cooling, most scientists were still talking about global warming. They were even saying that CO2 might cause a change in the weather patterns that could lead to an ice age. They were onto something, but they didn't know exactly what. Lately, it was discovered to be teleconnections, cyclical pattern in ocean temperatures that caused major changes in the jet stream. However, there was different factors. Normally, when you have a big Siberian snowpack in November, it would mean a very cold and snowy winter in the Northeast. That was the norm until the last couple of years. The past couple of years, Siberia had large snowpacks, larger than normal, yet this winter in the Northeast was less snowy than normal. I live in New York City, and this was our 5th or 6th least snowiest winter on record, despite us having snow on May 9th for the first time in exactly 43 years. The last time this happened was in 77, but difference in weather was completely different circumstances. Go on, type in sea surface temperature anomalies, and you will see. Just go through different years, and you will see. I will even show it to you guys. Last year in New York City, coastal water temperatures reached 84 in my life, nor have I ever found that in records going years and years and years back. First time New York City coastal water temperatures have ever reached the 80s, especially mid-80s at that. When I was 14 in 2005, I was excited when I saw 79. It was only one time, and it was like, oh my God, oh my God. And now it's 84, 85. Off Long Island, water temperatures were 77, 78 degrees. Off of Long Island, off of eastern Long Island. That's not normal, guys. Thankfully, this year, because of that unusually cool May, temperatures are right around where they should be for this time of year, albeit a couple degrees warmer than usual. But it's not like 10 degrees like it was last year. I'll wait and see until July and August where water temperatures will end up. Okay, guys, I gotta go. I'm sweating a lot. I've been walking around for an hour even before I started streaming. I'm trying to eat healthy. I'm buying raw almonds, cutting all sodium out of my diet, and I'm eating healthy, of course. Thank you, guys, and wish you all the best. Stay safe, all.